Hello everybody, welcome to Stonx Music. My name is Ollie and today we are having a look at a super fun project. I was contacted by a friend of mine earlier this week, Pete Cottrell from Pete Plays Music. He does a series called One Riff, 20 Bands, where he takes a riff, plays it in the style of 20 different bands, and he wanted help making this riff skrillex-ified. So he naturally came to Stonx Music, he came to us because we are the resident wompers and wobblers. So let me play you quickly what we've got. This is the Skrillexifying version that we made for Pete. So yeah, full of wobs, full of wobs, full of yargs, full of weeps. Let's take a little look. So first of all, this is what Pete sent me. He did a little MIDI tab of the riff and we got this. Nice, I thought cool, we can work with that. And we got some little drums for him too, which was just super simple. Press fold, kick, snare, hi-hat, and a cymbal on the one. Nice kind of stompy beat. So we took this down to 115 BPM, and first thing I did, this is kind of all of my tracks, I start like this. I get a reference, in this case, my man wanted Skrillex, so we grabbed Bangarang, dropped it in. I'm not going to play it because I don't know about all this copyright bull, so I'm just going to save myself the stress. I pulled it in, headphones on, and I just listened to the track and built my drums to be the closest I could get. So first of all, any of you that don't know, I have crazy drum bus routing, which really helps your drums pop out in a mix. I'm going to turn that off just so we can hear the samples. So this we've got for our kick drum. I'll play the whole thing. It's nothing particularly complicated, just a pretty stompy beat. Kick drum, nice thud, but it's also got that high click in there, that kind of, you know, the metal, you need that click to poke through. Snare drum, it's just a big old muscly boy, and that 200 is just popped right up, always. Super extra frequencies on that 200, give it that real thud thunk. You can actually see here, naturally this is sitting at 268, wherever that is, it's tuned to C. I've still boosted the 200 fundamental, just that thud that you want. And then compression, always, boom, glue compressor. And a bit more vibe to give it a bit of flow. There's these reverse snares. This is a trick that just everyone always uses. Gets a nice, gives you a lead in. Over here, some samples just from old video games and stuff. Bit of Foley, bit of variation. You barely hear it in the mix. And we'll move over to our hats. We've got real clicky, short. And they're just on the E's, on the ups. Big cymbals, some other smaller cymbals, just reinforcing some of the ones, the big hits. And at the end here, a little break. It's just bad boy rhythms. We're always doing this in the drum and bass and stuff. More frequencies helps build up these different bits. So let's take a listen to the drums one more time. So that break gives a real nice kind of groove to the end. Get that looping properly too. There we go. And let me just turn on my returns for anyone that doesn't know about my return tracks. So our entire drums up here get sent to drum bus 1, which has New York style compression, which is a big scoop of the mids, slamming it through 50-50. So I mean, technically this should be at 100% because this is parallel in its nature, but I have it 50% and it doesn't cause me any phasing issues, so we're fine. And then this drum bus 1 gets sent to drum bus 2, which is the Annihilator. Horrible EQ that I always mess around with. It's just generally trying to add a bunch more beef. Compress it, Camel Crusher distortion and limit it with a real low ceiling, so it's really getting squished. I'll just give you a quick sound of that. I mean, it's horrible, right? If you play the drums with and without those returns, beef gives you the beef. So that's drums, simple, and I've probably still chatted about it for like 20 minutes. Sorry. Next is the bit that everyone cares about, so we'll look at the bass. What I've done here is there's a bunch of terms for it. I suppose you could call it a hocket, which is taking your melody and splitting it up between a ton of different instruments. So what Pete gave me was this this MIDI bass line. I altered it a very small amount just to kind of give it a bit of a nicer flow, and I'll play this sub. Hopefully you guys can hear it. If you don't have a sub, you probably can't hear it. So that's pretty much the bass line. It's just altered to give it a bit more groove, and to fit with our other wobs and wonky wobbles. So this hocketing technique is this nightmare of basses you can see here. So I have pretty much just duplicated it for the second section with minimal variations. So let's have a quick look. Let me take just our bass here, and I've taken those exact same notes and split them up across a bunch of different instruments. That's essentially the technique. So we've got this. And then there's some pads as well on the top, giving it some more movement. So we'll break it down quickly, see what we've got. A bunch of these, basically massive serum, and then some other samples that I've already reprocessed in my sound design MudPie sessions, which I drag in a bit more texture and filth and stuff. So we've got massive here, and what's going on? Scrapeyard 10 seconds. So Scrapeyard, I'm pretty sure it's Scrapyard. It is Scrapyard. I don't know why it's called Scrapeyard. It is the Scrapyard wavetable, and we are just using the macros to adjust the wavetable position, and the envelope gives it a slight whoop, pop up. It's a pretty simple sound, really. Then a bunch of the I'll play you the sounds separately. So this is one of the growls, basically. It's at the beginning, the this auto filter and this glue compressor are giving it that super freaky wobble. So let me just turn these guys off quick and show you what's going on. So two things. One, you hear that slapback delay at the end. That's not nice. I deal with this two ways. We either bounce it down to audio, cut that off manually, or get a gate at the end, same way you do with your metal drums and stuff. You're trying to tighten stuff up, so it's just listen to that. Obviously, this needs the compressor in front of it because we've boosted the signal in for my threshold to work. So without the gate, so just tighten it up. And then this movement is a trick often used in neuro, dubstep, drum and bass, neuro hop, whatever, that kind of resampled, re-see movement. A lot of this filter, notch filter before a compressor, get you those real nice moving sounds. And I just use Max for Live, partly because I'm lazy, partly because I love the random qualities that you can get by. I wouldn't be able to program that in myself, and it just gives it real nice organic kind of. So I've just used the shaper here, and then added a bunch of jitter, so you can see this is the output noise. I've written in this. So it's every half bar it zooms up, but it's jittering around as it's doing it. One of the main techniques with this massive basses and layering loads of basses is having control over your frequencies. So before I go any further, I'll quickly talk about this. On my main bass channel, we have this multi-band compressor. This is splitting the lows from the mids, and we are soloing just the mids. So if I get rid of this, hit all that bass. Now when people are designing basses, they're like, oh yeah, we need that bass is sick. But you don't need that bass. That's what we have this sub bass down here for. So keeping these frequencies separate gives you a lot more control over your mix and a lot more power. You're really going to struggle if you've got all of these massive real bass heavy sounds. All of the subs in them are going to have different levels, and you're going to be compressing it a lot to try and get control. So from the get-go, let's just get rid of those low frequencies, everything below 80 Hertz, and we'll do that separately on our sub down here. So we'll take our second sound. It's something I bounced out and turned off. You can see that I've grayed out this channel and it's turned off here. But we'll have a listen to it anyway and see what it was. Kind of plonks. Again, a lot of this kind of mad sound design, you're just trying to find the right sounds. If you're spending a long time EQing things in and out trying to get them to fit, then chances are you got the wrong sounds. So that was a sound that was in there that I was trying to cover some frequencies with. In the end, I must have covered them with a different instrument and just deleted that one. It was not helping the cause. So down here we've got another one backing up this initial monster growl. Let's see this one. Yeah. That's a lot more of your typical yeah. So let's listen to both of these together quickly. Yeah. And just this one on its own. Yeah. So yeah, it's really just about building the textures up. So quick look at this guy. Woohoo! Look at this funky boy. And so it's the same technique as before. We're basically doing a lot of notch filtering before compression. Here I haven't actually compressed it. I've just used the limiter. But it's the same thing. And we have the sub here as a separate. Then obviously up here the actual frequencies get cut out, so they're not interfering. So again, if we just turn this off, sounds way more powerful. There's that sub. But we don't need that. That's separate. Boom, boom, boom. So another couple that we've turned off. Let's see what say you. See what use is. This is another one of these guys. It's quite a low wob that obviously I didn't need, so we turned off. Here it looks like this one again, another one of these high variants. What's that say? So again, I've said it, but this process, a lot of it is just trying to get this stuff to fit. So it's totally fine to do a bunch of sound design and turn it all off. Not a problem. This next one, see what we got here. Oh, I've done the wrong thing here. Oh, now I look like an idiot. Right, let's go back and listen to what these were. Completely different to what I had soloed. Oh well. So obviously I didn't need that. We got this frequency somewhere else. This one we didn't use either. So let's go back to here. That's our end little riff. Dun 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 dun. Added the old dubstep wobbles to it, and we've just got this preset bass here that we have automated the LFO rate on. So we configure LFO. Let's come to here, show the automation. We got it here. So, and that's literally automating the cutoff. So that noise would just be one big screech, and then you're yak 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 yak. Next up, we got something else backing this one up. That's kind of a nice, it's almost kind of guitar-y, but it's following up our talking yeah 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 noises. So we've got boom, boom, boom. Pretty simple little sound there, and then manipulators doing the cool stuff with this warp, which is what this one's doing. Turn this off. This gives it a nice little groove. It's kind of like a pitch bend or something, a little dive. And again, splitting these things up into two things just to get variation and making sure these sounds match without having to do tons of EQ. That's I think the secret sauce. You don't want to be EQing the stuff to get it to fit. So they've got this kind of nice play off between each other. Now this one is one from my sample pack. I just make these big mod pies and cut out sections that I like of them. So this is just reinforcing that initial ramp. So let's hear that with this and this. Boom, now we've got some beef, right? And then the second time round I've changed it for a different one of my basses. Exactly the same movement. It's just a different different placement in the spectrum. And you know, it's these kind of subtleties that build up to a nice full overall tone. And you know, arguably it's all just horrendous noise at the end of the day, but there are these subtle differences in frequencies that stop a track just being obnoxious and boring. Subtle, but it is different. So what we've got here, those high frequencies we're talking about, so that just adds up on top of this. Let's come up to the top here and up again to you. Let's also solo this one for consistency. So again, it's just that little bit of subtlety, that little bit of difference, adding it up. Here we've got a little wob. So even though we're just kind of hocketing the rhythm around and moving this one melody to different sections, sometimes it's nice just to have these offbeat movements where you start thinking of all of your instruments as their rhythmic values in their drums. So it's just a rum, but it's got this nice roll to it, so it takes you nicely into the next section. Go. Rumba. So onto these kind of your typical dubstep wobbers. Now that first talky thing, Skrillex does it better. I've definitely not got the best talkers there, but this to me is pretty much exactly his technique for getting these. We use the scream filter. That's all it is, boys and girls. The scream filter on Massive, and then playing with your scream amount. So we've got this first one here, which is, whoop, and the second one, and that's the same patch, just a different scream setting. So that's a real nice one to get that kind of again, these subtle differences in movement. It goes from and yeah, that for me, that was the big trick when I found out about this scream filter. Scrapyard, again, it's just a real nice one to get that kind of movement, but it almost doesn't matter at this point what wavetable you go for. Digital hybrid has most of the nasties in them, but this scream filter, bam, and just mess around with this scream amount. You could actually make an entire track if you just created 10 different instruments that just had a different scream value. Yeah, real eye-opener, that one. So the next sound is again just going to be a reinforcement. So our first guy here, just kind of a bit buffing it up a bit. Boom, boom, boom. What we got down here now? These guys, little ones, and they're just octaves of each other. That's another lazy one I do a lot. It really does help. So I probably started with the top sound, and it would have been that needed more. Duplicate, octave up or octave down, literally thickening your bass lines. And again, this rhythmically, I was just trying to play on the same thing. End beat is different. Same here. End beat is different. And then this bit, we've just done our real typical doubled up on the LFO. And at the end, a little kind of fun bit, a kind of little plonky. Like, imagine Slipknot playing that. Some vocal samples, just to... vocal sample. And that's just granularized and stretched out. So hit your warp settings and you just like pull this stuff, make it nasty, texture, mess around with the grains. And these kind of techniques, I think, really help make a track a bit more cohesive. So rather than getting a bunch of different stuff from a bunch of different sample packs, which this kind of is like, those sample packs are all treated very differently. So by having the same sound that you're altering slightly, so this could easily be a bounced reverb out of one of these basses or something that you just granulize. You keep processing and reprocessing the same thing over and over again. So your track is full of the same sounds, the same kind of frequency ranges, and then when you use other stuff in other spectrums, it gives you that I don't know. Big old Reese. That's what you need, a big old Reese. So again, that just helps us build up at the end. And then we've got a little bass here. And again, that's just reinforcing the initial bit and this bum bum bum. So we've got... Gate again to tighten it up. Filter, getting rid of those lows. And another EQ, getting rid of those lows. Glue compressor at the end. Some effects. What have we got? I think it's a dub delay or something I put in. It's a scream that I put in. Don't know why, but I did. What's this? Cool ping as well. And whether you hear that on your initial playthrough or not, it's debatable. It just adds these frequencies to it. There you go, guys. So hopefully you've learned something. Basically how to go wob, 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 wob. All you need is massive or serum, scream filter, and an LFO, which you're going to automate that all important figure down there. And that's pretty much it. It's the tricks with the mixing come with having your routing set up properly. This is our template that we use for pretty much all of our electronic music. Fatty man drum bass, and then everything, if you look here, we've got drums, sub bass, and everything else goes through these two side chains. So if you just have a look quickly, that's literally ducking the entire track for those kicks and snares. That's how they stay so powerful. And separating your sub bass from your main bass, or mid bass that we'll call it, because your sub bass is the equivalent of a bass guitar, your mid bass is the equivalent of a guitar, if you actually listen to these distorted frequencies. So there we go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. That's Skrillexifying Psychosocial. If you guys want to hear me Skrillexify anything else, let me know in the comments, or maybe I could try and do the same kind of thing. One EDM riff, 20 different bands. That'll blow my fucking mind. I don't know. Big respect to Pete. I enjoy your stuff. I love your videos. This one riff 20 bands thing is awesome. I'm so happy to be a part of it. Thank you everyone for watching. This has been Stonx Music. Tune in again for some wobbly wobs and drum and bass and EDM stuff. And if you want to learn anything, check out our Discord at chat.stonx.co.uk. Thanks guys for tuning in. I'll catch you later. Bye.